Today we'll see exactly how to buy hosting on SiteGround and in addition get a completely free domain with certain specific exceptions because I want to show you something important next. But anyway, we'll get to that later. However, I want to let you know that in the description I'm leaving a link, and if I happen to have a discount code, I'll include that as well. If not, then it's just a link, so you can come and buy your domain and hosting too. So let's now proceed to the hosting section and take a closer look at all these various options that appear here. Now, some of you might be wondering and asking yourselves, but which specific one should I choose? Should I pick WooCommerce hosting, WordPress hosting, or perhaps general web hosting? Well, honestly speaking, these three options are exactly the same. For example, if I go into web hosting and the page loads and I scroll down to the prices, you'll notice that the plans have the same names and the same prices. Here, I went into web hosting. Now let's go into WordPress hosting and you'll see that it's literally the same thing, the same prices, the same names, absolutely the same features. So basically in that particular case, you can just choose whichever one you like best, but this is really more of a visual thing, so to speak, so that people say, oh, I want to build an e-commerce site, so I'll do it with WooCommerce. So I'll buy this specific hosting because this hosting is indeed for that purpose. But honestly, if I'm being sincere, it's practically the same thing. In fact, the options here are just so you can show, oh, this one comes with e-commerce activated, but we can also activate e-commerce ourselves when we buy web hosting. Now, that being said, next we have cloud hosting, which is actually different, and this is something you might need for a huge platform for something extremely important, because just look at the prices. I mean, honestly, the prices are quite high. For example, this one is $300. Literally, what you pay here for 1 month is what you would pay for a hosting plan, depending on which one you choose. But anyway, now let's go ahead and buy the hosting, right? I'm going to go here to WordPress hosting. As I mentioned, it's pretty much the same as all the others, but once we're here, we'll have these three options. The main difference is that the startup plan only allows us to create one website. Then the Grow Big plan lets us create multiple websites, but in addition to that, it gives us 20 gigabytes of web space, whereas the startup plan gives us 10 gigabytes, and here we have 100,000 visits per month. In other words, it's like a calculation they give us to estimate the number of visits the site can handle without slowing down, without the host failing, or anything like that. And then we have the Go Geek plan, which basically has the same feature of unlimited websites, 40 gigabytes of web space, and 400,000 visits per month. That is, it practically doubles what GrowBig offers us. But anyway, one super important thing, here under websites, what does this mean? Because yes, it does say unlimited, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can create, say, 50 websites with this and there won't be any issues. While you will be able to do it, there are certain nuances. Well, what happens here is that you know that each website, when you create a site, let's say I created this SiteGround page and uploaded it to my host. Well, it turns out that if this page, for example, just to exaggerate, takes up 10 gigabytes, then I've already used up 10 gigabytes, meaning half of the 20 gigabytes they give me here. So if I create another page and that page is exactly the same as the SiteGround one and it takes up another 10 gigabytes, then I'll only be able to have 2 websites because it depends on the amount of space I have available. But for example, if each page I create only takes up 1 gigabyte and I don't need any additional storage space for my site, then I'll be able to create 20 websites. So that really depends a lot on how much you want to allocate to each host, well, to each page. But in this case, if this one doesn't work for you, you can go for the Go Geek plan. Now then, which one do I recommend between these two? Basically, between the startup and Grow Big plans, as I mentioned, the differences are here, in these 3 points, just like with the others. However, this limitation of only one website is quite important because even though we have enough space available to create more web pages, the system will only allow us to create one website. So if right now you're thinking that you're only going to create a single solitary website and after that you absolutely won't create any others, meaning you'll just make that one particular site and won't want, for example, to first create a website to sell technology products and then later want to sell hosting services or something similar to that, well, in that specific case, you would already need 2 distinct websites at the very least. So for me personally, I actually used to have a plan with HostGator and now I'm going to switch to SiteGround, but it's not because HostGator is bad, it's just that I signed up for a website there thinking I would only have one, but now I've realized I want to have several. So I'm also taking this opportunity to test out SiteGround. So once we're here, we just choose the plan. In this case, it would be this one. Let's go ahead and click on sign up. Oh, and one important thing, here they're giving us the domain for free. Look, in all the plans, so that's not a difference, but there's a little asterisk to that entire. So let's click on sign up and I'll tell you what I mean by the asterisk. Here it clearly tells us that domain registration will be completely free for the entire first year, which typically costs $19.99 for each and every domain we purchase. But what happens if I were to change it here and, for example, specifically put this particular domain here like that.com? It would completely alter the entire free domain situation. So consequently, the free domain policy doesn't universally apply to all the domains that are explicitly listed here. For some specific domains, it will indeed apply, while for others, it most certainly will not. For example, in this specific instance, let's carefully observe .com certainly applies, .org also definitely applies, .net also applies for free during the the entire first year. Info also applies for free during the initial first year, and so on and so forth, with many more options available. But if we go to other domains like the ones that appear here, let's see if .online, yes, .online also applies, but these specific country domains over here are not included. Look, there it directly shows us a price. In this case, I'm going to choose .com so I can get the free domain, and I'll enter it here. Once we've carefully selected the desired domain here, we simply click where it clearly says register a new domain, or if we already possess a domain from another platform that we previously purchased, or even one within SiteGround but just the domain itself, then we can easily select that we already have an existing domain. However, it's recommended that you don't select that option because otherwise you'll lose the free benefit. In other words, even if you're going to use a .co domain and will have to pay for that specific domain on another platform, it's still highly advisable to purchase this particular domain here, or at the very least pay for it for 1 full year because it is completely free for you. However, if you choose not to do it this convenient way, you will inevitably have to pay for it somewhere else. So take advantage of this free domain. Let's click continue and it will simply start loading and checking if the domain is available. If the domain is available, it will let us know with a congratulations message. If it's not readily available, it will tell us to enter another domain name or a different domain extension such as .co or .net and so on. In my case, it is indeed available, so as you can clearly see, you need to thoroughly check whether your domain is available or not. Now let's proceed to go in here and carefully fill out all of this important information. Done. So as always, we will enter our email address, our chosen password, and then repeat the password. If you already have an account, just click here. If you already have an account, log in. And then the client information, country, your first name, your last name. If we are registering this under a specific company name, we should then enter the complete company name and the corresponding identification number for everything related to comprehensive tax identification, including VAT and all those essential payments. So it is highly recommended to proceed with that because, as you undoubtedly know, it is exceptionally important for all crucial tax matters in each and every country. But if we don't have that and we're doing this as an individual, we just leave those fields blank because we don't have that information. And in fact, they're not mandatory. Now next we have to enter the locality. This is basically part of your address. So if you live in a country that doesn't have a locality, just enter your city, your neighborhood, or whatever applies. Then your specific address, postal code, and your phone number. Here, remember to include the country code because in this case, for example, in Colombia, you need to put +57 and then the number. And in each country, you should enter your country code depending on where you're from. Then finally, the card number, expiration date, card code, security code, and the cardholder's name. And this code, for those who don't know, can be found on the back of the card as shown there. See? You entered it there and that's it. Now finally, here we find the plan, which is this particular one. Make absolutely sure it's the one you truly need. Then the data center automatically sets USA for us, but if I change it here, for instance, if you are perhaps from Spain or are located in Europe, or rather not you specifically, but the clients you ultimately want to reach are primarily located in Europe, then you should definitely change this and set it to Europe. Why? Because that way those who are closer to the data center will experience faster speeds on your website. But remember, it's not so much about where you are located, but rather where the people who will be visiting your site are located, whether it's to buy, to browse, or whatever else. And then basically here it tells us that the period will be for 12 months and we can also choose 24 months. In this case, we're going to do it for 12 months and the price says it's $4.99 per month, which means a total of $59.88. But there's one thing, and this is something SiteGround really gets wrong, which honestly I don't like at all, and that is that in the future, the price increases a lot. Personally, I'm going to try it out for a year. If I truly like it, I might make the considerable effort to pay for it annually because honestly, it does seem quite expensive to me, but if it works well, I'd certainly pay for it. If not, then I'll switch to another hosting provider. But keep this price issue in mind because in the long run, it can end up being expensive compared to other hosting services. But the thing is, SiteGround is it has a lot of good things, so that's exactly why I want to do this. So, well, then we need to have this domain registration option activated, and it should say free here. Because remember, if it doesn't say free, it's because the domain you chose isn't eligible for them to give it to you for free, and in that case, you'd probably be paying for the domain. Next, domain privacy costs us $12 for the first year. So we also need to keep that in mind because this privacy means that in the voice, when someone looks it up here, basically the information we entered above will be visible to anyone. So we can enable this option. In my case, I don't enable it, and in fact, I plan to later transfer that domain to another platform like Namecheap, which is cheaper. Actually, I've already uploaded a video about that on my channel. And since in this case it's free, I'll leave it with SiteGround for now. And then we'll just need to confirm this here, click here and here, although the second one is only if you want discounts or something from SiteGround. In my case, I do, so I'll leave it enabled. Alright, I'm going to fill all this out and then we'll click on Pay Now. Done, I've filled in all the information, so now we'll just click on Pay Now. It starts loading here and tells us, thank you for choosing SiteGround. Your order has been submitted successfully. You will also receive a welcome message with access instructions and guidelines for account management within an hour. If you do not receive the welcome message, please contact us through our support chat. Chat din tuman. But really, it didn't take any time at all. Look, I made the purchase at around 11:45 and from then on in less than an hour, and obviously it was less than an hour, but an hour might sound like a lot to some people, but literally right here. Welcome aboard. Are you ready to set up your website? Let's get started. So at this point, it shows us our name and gives us the option to log in right here. So we just click there and it will load the SiteGround page again. And here, all we have to do is enter our email address, the one we used on SiteGround, and our password. So let's enter them. And once we log in, we'll have the option to click here and set up our website. Maybe in the future, I'll bring you a video showing you how to install WordPress, how to have everything within the platform, and how to create more websites within SiteGround. And well, one important thing, here it says verify your domain, which is the domain I purchased, and it tells me I need to verify it as soon as possible. This is simply because I received an email and I need to open it and just click on a link they sent me so that this message disappears. In fact, I'm going to do it and show you how it's done so that it goes away. So here, the platform itself shows up and tells us that this domain we purchased could be suspended if we don't complete the verification. So we scroll down and here it says verify information. It's basically verifying what we already entered, our name, our email, and we click on verify information. And it automatically says the information has been verified. So if we go back to our account, let's click refresh and we'll notice that message should have already disappeared. No, it hasn't disappeared. Let's see if maybe it just takes a little while. Okay, now I see what's happening. Basically, we have to click here where it says view domain, and once we do that, the domain appears here and it says refresh status. So we click on refresh status and it automatically says that the domain has been verified. So if I go back to the beginning here, it's going to show me, well, actually, it's not going to show me the verification issue anymore. But anyway, now I have my domain and I also have SiteGround hosting set up here. And if you want me to show you how to install WordPress and all that, just let me know in the comments section. See you next time.